Hey, 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 what's up, guys? It is the Ace Michael Show. If you're driving, pull over to the side to clap your hands. Everybody, clap your hands. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here all the time, but most of the time. And anytime, I'm happy to be with you. Hey, today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular professions in Las Vegas is getting married because people like to tie the knot, get on hitched, and go on down to the church. They also like to get divorced, but that's a whole nother show. Today on the show, I have a professional. She is the community outreach director of the Vegas Wedding Chamber. Say that 3 times fast. Welcome to the show. First timer, Charity Joy Mills is with us on the Ace Michael Show today. Charity, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
It is my pleasure. Now, as a person who's dodged and ditched and been married and got dodged and ditched, what exactly does this mean? Like, you're the community outreach director, so that, and to me, that implies that you have to get the community involved in some way, or you somehow bring programs to the community that they didn't know about or they weren't aware of, or something like that. Is that crazy talk?
That's not exactly what my position does just yet. So like you said, the weddings is a huge business for
Big,
Las
huge.
Vegas. So our organization is the largest association of wedding professionals. So we have about 200 members right now. So we have different directors for different tasks, such as government affairs, communications, event planning. So what I do is bringing a community outreach aspect to our members. So I get them involved with the community. So we partner with different nonprofits, and pretty soon this year we will be doing more community outreach where we're bringing people in to see what we do. But I needed to make sure that everybody was on board with doing things and volunteering, giving donations, things like that. So just recently we partner with Project 150.
Okay.
They have a yearly prom closet event
Nice.
where they collect donations of formal wear and accessories for underprivileged teens to come and shop for prom wear. Our organization donated a good $15,000 worth of items, and we had a whole van that brought it to Project 150 and
very
presented
cool.
that. So.
Very, very cool. I'm going to jump off book for a second because something you said before we started the interview actually like stuck in my mind. You mentioned that you were in the funeral business. Now, the only other, before this, by the way, not
Yes.
simultaneously, she's like, yeah, we're hitching them up. We're putting them in the ground. Next, come back in, get hitched again. But no, you had said you were in the funeral business before. Now, the one best buddy of mine who's also a venue owner here in Vegas, Devin Brooks with Life Legacy, a great friend of mine, he also came from the funeral business and went into like a wedding venue. So what is the tie-in between dying and marrying? It seems like everybody, I mean, is it, do you find that people are in those two industries together or have been from one to the other?
I've not met a lot of people that have gone back and forth in the industry, but if you really think about it, planning a funeral is planning an event. It's also a rite of passage. It's something that's very serious. It's also something that requires legal documentation, something that is very has a lot of sanctity. Some of it has religious aspects. Then you're thinking you've got clothes, you have flowers, you have food, you have music. So a lot of that, and then keeping everything on schedule as you're coordinating the wedding, you're doing the same thing that you would do at a funeral.
Interesting. Now, in my business of production, believe it or not, we're real sticklers to time. Like my whole day is organized like literally 12 o'clock to 12:15, 12:16 to 12:18. Like everything is about time. And I would imagine if you're any type of event planner, time is super important to you. What do you do about late people? You have a policy or philosophy on lateness, tardiness?
Well, it depends on the event. So sometimes when people are late for a wedding, and especially in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas, we can do a wedding every 15 minutes. So we're turning them out. And if you're late, either you're going to get charged by the chapel because we have other people, or you're going to have to be moved later when we have a spot. So we've had people that were 45 minutes late to their own wedding, and they have to come back hours later because we have people simultaneously waiting to get married. So a lot of people
Right.
don't understand that they're not the only person getting married that day.
Right. And come back sober too, by the way.
Yeah, good luck on that. Especially if you're gone for 3 hours, they're probably not going to
Right.
come back sober. And then
Come back with the same groom, by the way. Try that.
you do have to get documentation, though. So if they come back with a different groom, as long as they have the license, I'll marry them.
Wow. And so are you an officiant? You can actually do the wedding?
I am, yes,
That gives you some superpower. That's kind of tight.
I suppose.
You'd be like, stop right there or I'll marry you. Exactly. No, that's interesting. So that's kind of cool. So you do these weddings. How many do you personally do like in a year? More than 100? More than 500?
Probably. It's hard to estimate because I don't officiate weddings full time now, but my husband and I do the weddings for EDC. So
Oh my
this
gosh.
year, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
What does one have to do with the other? And why is that funny to me? That is so crazy. The weddings, I never even thought about that. The weddings at EDC. What'd you say? What did you say? I want to know if you want to marry me. Anyway, I thought I did that pretty good. I
That
never
was
did
amazing.
anything like that before.
I'm gonna hire you.
I could visualize, like as I was doing it, I was like, man, I might get an Oscar for this right here.
You could.
If they gave out Oscars for just crazy, stupid shit, that would be me right now.
Wouldn't be a Grammy though if you were singing.
I don't know what it would be. They might have a different award. You know, they have all these different awards. They give people like the Peabody Awards and stuff. Like, you never even know. Like, you just read it. You go, oh, they're giving so-and-so the Aspidamio Award. I didn't even know that was a thing. Good job, guy. Anyway, okay, so you're doing these weddings, and you and your husband kind of are in the same business.
We are.
Were you in the business before, or was this having to do with your marriage? How did you two end up doing the same thing? We want to know.
You may actually need another show to talk about this. So actually,
They only give me one show.
okay, so I'll try to make this fast. This is a very long story. So I left the funeral industry. I
Okay.
walked into a themed wedding chapel because I had a background in entertainment. I had no idea what I was
Nice.
going to do, but I was
We
stepping
never
away
do.
from that industry for ethical reasons.
Hold on. You can't just drop that. That's a big pin. The ethical reasons you were leaving the...
Funeral industry.
What could be unethical about putting somebody in a box in the ground?
The
That's
management,
another show.
yeah, the
You need
management
two
was
more
doing,
shows already.
I do, yeah. So,
Wow. Okay.
So they
Just
were
when-
doing some
we'll know
things
that.
they weren't supposed to be doing, and I left the industry out of integrity.
Wow. Deep. Okay. Okay.
So I walked into this themed wedding chapel, and I was hired on the spot. I was promoted to the event planner and the marketing director for the wedding chapel and for their supper club that was on the same property. I was having to do some outreach and some marketing and things like that, and I was trying to see who had done this job before, and there was a gentleman named Brian Mills who had done the job. So I took
It's
over.
always Brian Mills.
So I took over parts of his position.
That's what y'all call it. Took over. Mhm. Yeah.
So he had left the company.
Well, you guys
6
weren't
months.
married.
We had never met.
I see where this is going.
Right.
I love it.
So we had not met yet. And I would have to take his name out of signatures, put my name in, have to call people and say, I know you worked with Brian, but I'm your new contact now. So I would take his packages and expand on them and create events and create different marketing incentives. And I became the MC for the supper club that he used to MC for. So I saw a picture on the wall of somebody very dynamic
Yes.
with this bride, and I
Of
thought it
course.
was a couple. I thought it was the groom and the bride, and I was like, oh, I love this picture. And somebody said, well, that's Brian. And I said, I love him. So I wanted to marry the man in the picture. I had no idea if he lived around the corner or around the world.
I gotta hang out some wedding chapels. Damn it. These bars is not happening, bro.
not. You need to go to
hang
the-
at wedding chapels. Okay, so you meet Brian eventually.
Eventually, right. So he keeps popping up in my life. I actually went back into the funeral industry for a little bit after I left that chapel. And I had some clients that were from my hometown in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that came here to bury a loved one. And they said, oh, we used to live in Las Vegas. We worked in a wedding chapel. I said, really? Which one? It was the same one I had worked with. So they said, oh, did you work with Brian? I was like, no, I didn't.
She's like, I'd love to work with Brian.
Right, I know, right? Actually, and before that, I had gone to a few other wedding chapels. And when I was getting interviewed by the management, they would ask me if I knew him because we had the same company on our resume and he had interviewed with them.
Wow.
I went and I interviewed with another company as an event director that he actually left the company we were with, went to that restaurant, became the event director, moved on from that position,
Oh my God.
and went and worked someplace else. So his staff got promoted to his position and I interviewed for her position. So through every single interview and through my life for years.
You can hear this recurring. So do you think the same thing was happening to Brian on the other side of town? Like every place he was
No.
going, was he? So he had no idea that he had an admirer in
No,
you.
right?
and so eventually you meet. Now, here's the thing, because we're talking romance, do you, knowing that when you meet him, do you, knowing that you've been interested in him, do you still play hard to get, or did you chase Brian, or did Brian chase you?
Well, so the way that we connected finally was somebody asked if I could MC a wedding event award show. I was not available to host it, and they said, do you know anybody that's well known in the wedding industry that would do a good job? I said, well, I know of someone. So I contact Brian on Facebook and I said, hey, you don't know me,
Oh,
but, and he said, oh, I know who you are.
Right.
So he had heard about me. And so we hit it off. We start talking as friends. He's not able to do the event because he will actually be on his honeymoon
Oh, I
with
was going to
someone
say
else.
at some point, yeah, somebody's got to be married in this scenario. Okay, I was wondering about that part.
Okay, I was not a home wrecker though. We always have to,
Of course
to
not.
correct that. So
Absolutely
when I
not.
tell this story, people are like,
Yes.
"Ooh, the scandal." It's not.
No, they go ooh.
I'm like, no, pa. Okay, yeah. So there's a twist to it, right? So
Okay.
So he's going to be on his honeymoon with someone else. We hit it off as friends. We're supposed to meet as colleagues, and he cancels on me.
Okay, that must be bad. Okay, good.
Because he said that he knew that he was going to like me, and it was the honorable thing to do.
As well as true.
Yes.
I think so. I agree with that.
So I respected that
Yes.
as a professional, but as a woman, I was upset, and I blocked him on Facebook.
Yeah, of course.
So
But why were you upset? This is just me trying to. Listen, guys. I'm trying to delve into the female psyche right now. We may come up with some really compelling information from this next question. So, what? This is Dr. Micheals proceeding. What made you, Charity, upset that he wouldn't? You know what I mean? He did the honorable thing. So, what would make you upset about that as a woman, quote unquote?
I think in any situation, if somebody feels like they're rejected, then that hurts your ego, definitely. And I did respect the fact that he was going to get married to someone else. I was very much interested in him, and I was having difficulty separating the idea of the romance with him with being professional.
Which he didn't even know about. This
Right,
idea.
right. That's crazy.
This
right.
Brian must be some hot pants, man. Really? I want to see a photo soon. Okay, so you guys didn't connect that time.
Right.
But obviously at some point you did.
Right. So years later,
Years?
Yes. So this is all over a span of 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
3 years,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah. And years later, I
The
started a
Notebook
new
Part
Facebook.
2. Who knew? Right here in Vegas. Wow.
So years later, I started a new Facebook page. He found me on Facebook, and
Why is Facebook even involved in this? I hate Facebook.
I'm thankful for it for that situation.
Wow. And so, do you guys got any youngins together at this point, or what's?
We don't. No,
Oh,
no.
that's
We have.
good.
I have a daughter, so.
Okay, but you got one from another. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good when you're young and you're married. This is my opinion. It's good when you're young. Enjoy the marriage. Enjoy that fun time before the kids come, because once the kids come, it's a different type of marriage. That's just my 2 cents. But that's really a good, fascinating story. Wow, very, very, very interesting. And so you and Brian are now connected. You guys are happy.
Mm-hmm.
Life is good. And what kind of advice would you give other people who might be on a similar path? Like, there might be somebody listening to the show right now who's like, what do I do? Do I got to wait 2 years? I got to close my Facebook account? What do I got to do? Just tell me what to do.
I think I really wasn't interested in marriage until I met Brian.
I understand that.
So
I totally understand that.
I think that, people would tell me, you just know. And I thought that was a really like a cop-out answer until I knew.
No, I get that. I totally get that. When I met my wife, who's my ex-wife, go figure. But anyway, when I met my wife, the very first night that we met at a friend's birthday party. And at first I wasn't interested in her. She had her hair pulled back. She had just gotten off of work. And she was in a mood with her and her girlfriends. They were in a mood. And I wasn't part of that mood. So I just saw her a different way. I was like, ooh, that chick's a trip. And then she took her hair down and she relaxed and she became a completely different person. And I did have a feeling, and this is why I'm saying I know, I had a feeling that night. I was like, you know what? There's something about this girl. I really like this girl. I definitely want to see this girl. And I think I could see being with this girl. Like, I could imagine if this works out, I could see us being together. And throughout our whole courtship, it was always like, there was never a question in my mind, if it all worked out, would we be together and ultimately get married?
Wow.
That was, and for me, I've always been a player. So I was in rock bands and shit, and I met all kinds of crazy, wild women through my lifetime. So I have to admit, I never had a feeling with any woman ever, that I would probably be marrying them.
Wow.
I never had that feeling. So I do know what that feels like, that struck feeling, like a ton of bricks or a ton of something hard and heavy falls on your head and your heart, and you do go, oh my God, I'm in love, like real love. This is it. So that's a very interesting thing. But you deal with people every day probably who are experiencing some part of that euphoria. What's that like?
That's amazing to see. You can tell the couples that are really going to last and the couples that may come back to you, and you may see them with another bride or groom. That actually has happened.
Hold on now. You can tell the people.
I think
you can
so.
look. I mean, it's your intuition, obviously.
Sure. You can see how people interact with each other, and the ones that just love each other, and the ones that maybe are begrudgingly doing it, or because it's for their family, or maybe out of necessity. And I mean, not everybody, but some people are nervous on the day of their wedding, so they may be anxious, so they might give off different vibes. But you can tell the ones that are really genuinely in love, that respect each other.
This sounds like a book getting ready to get written, y'all. Wow. What is just a couple of the signs that you would say you can look at a couple and tell they're really genuinely in love?
When they can't keep their eyes off of each other during the ceremony. So when the ceremony begins, they are asked to face myself as the minister, and when they can't stop looking at each other, making cute little faces, or pinching each other, or holding on to each other, you see that affection. And again, some people are nervous, so maybe they're not feeling that. So I don't want to judge people and say, oh, you didn't grab your wife's butt in the ceremony, so you're ready for divorce.
You didn't touch your wife enough. Right. You guys aren't going to make it. What's the matter with you?
So that's one indicator, I would say. Another one is very interesting. Sorry, ladies, that I'm calling you out on this, but I always, when I ask for them to do the ring exchange, I will have the man, with that, go ahead and take her hand, kiss her hand, and seal that promise with a kiss. And when he kisses her hand, the way that he kisses it, you can tell a lot. When I ask the lady to do it and she doesn't want to,
oh, snap-a-rapper. Hold on one second. That happens?
Oh,
There's actually... Okay, see, that right there would be a cause for, like, domestic violence or something. like, you mean to tell me we standing in here in this wedding chapel and you gonna act crazy right now. You gonna act like you something, okay, right now, okay. That's crazy. So you've seen that like on more than one occasion, more than two hands occasions?
Probably, yeah.
No way.
I mean, I've done hundreds of weddings, so at least 10 times I've seen it.
Wow.
Sometimes, and I actually, even before the ceremony, if I feel like they're not really in sync, I won't even ask the woman to do it. But it's an interesting indicator, I feel like, because and in some cultures that's not acceptable, so I can sort of gauge that with different people. But if it's the couple, and if the man is just so loving with the kiss and the woman just I'm like, no, she didn't. You know, like if she's not kissing your hand, she's not gonna be doing other things. You know, so
right. You can pretty much count on that play out. That's might be done for you. Wow.
There's no honeymoon after that.
No, it ain't gonna be on honey. It might be some moon. There ain't gonna be no honey in that honeymoon. Wow, that's pretty doggone deep. I learned a lot today. Wow. So if we want to stalk you pleasantly on the www, we don't want to upset Brian, but how do we follow you and stay connected? And that's kind of what we do in social media world these days. Well, we know you're on Facebook somewhere.
Right.
That's real. That Facebook account ain't getting closed. I know that. We could probably find Brian on your Facebook account, huh?
You can.
I'm going to find him.
You can.
I love that. Okay, so Charity Joy Micheals was on the show today. How do we social media you if we want to?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at mrs.cjmills or on Facebook, Charity Joy Mills. We also, my husband and I also own a company together called Theme Las Vegas Weddings.
Oh,
so
nice.
You can check us out on our website.
That is what's up. She is the Community Outreach Director for Vegas Wedding Chamber. One day I hope to have a title so glorious as that. You know what I say at the end of every show, guys? First I say I love you, and if that doesn't sound genuine, it is the truth. And then I also say, live the life you love the life you live.